Good morning, Knicks Nation. I hope everyone's well today. Happy Wednesday. Hope you're healthy. And if you are sick, hopefully you're recovering well and quickly. Today, I'm not going to spotlight any particular player, but I want to talk about some updated trade proposals based on the coming cap situation. Now, I want to explain the cap a little bit just to get started, because we talked about this over the course of, I think in August, I did a series of videos with different trade proposals. The first one was with Golden State. People thought I was crazy. And I told you at the time that there's a difference between basketball business and basketball as a fan. Okay? Because of the current situation in terms of the loss of revenue, we're going to talk more about basketball business. It becomes what we thought it was going to become in August. It's going to become a focal point. And the Knicks' current financial situation is advantageous to help us in the new financial landscape. Okay. So I want to go over today. I want to talk about, well, first, before I do that, let's talk about the cap. So the NBA salary cap is set each year based on the revenues from the previous year and expected revenues. So the cap usually rises because revenues in the NBA is a business that continually can make money. But this past season, they lost money. Well, they didn't make as much revenue. I don't want to say they lost money, but they didn't make as much revenue as they normally would, or that they were expecting, for a couple of reasons. They had loss of revenue from China, which was in the hundreds of millions. And of course, they had loss of revenue because of the games that they didn't play in their normal format because of the COVID. They had to cut short the season. They did not make up revenue. In fact, their ratings were down for the bubble. Okay, so they didn't get the NBA has several streams of revenue, but let's just go over a couple of them. Obviously, there's ticket sales, right? Obviously, there's streaming from China and other countries, NBA games that are streamed on NBA.com. Other than that, there's advertising. There's advertising at the games. There's advertising on television during the games. There's advertising on the players' uniforms. They make another, stream of in the tens or hundreds of millions from the advertising dollars. Okay. So lack of games not only means lack of ticket sales, not only that, but there's lack of merchandise sales. There's lack of advertising dollars. Big losses. Okay. The bubble did not help them. The bubble got people looking at the game streaming, and I don't know if they got China back yet. They're hoping to get that. So they lost that. And then, of course, there were no fannies in the seats, no ticket sales. And then the advertising at the game was less because nobody's there, right? So there was all of that. So in light of that, we just had a report 2 days ago where the NBA is thinking about lowering the salary cap in a range from $3 million per team to $15 million per team. Now I'm thinking it'll probably be, and they use these two metrics. They said either a minimum salary amount or the amount of an average, rotational player. That's the way they added it up. But I'm thinking it's going to be in the middle of that, like 9 million, which is like the mid-level exception number for a veteran right now is 9 million. They'll probably lower it by 9 million. But let's go. I want to look today at the worst case scenario. I want to look today at how that benefits the Knicks. Okay. Cause the better the scenario is better for the Knicks also, but the worst case scenario is bad for everybody, but it benefits the Knicks still. So the salary cap as of last season was $109 million. They were basing the future salary cap at the time, which was in January, on what they expected as revenues. And they were going to raise it to 116 million per team. But of course, they did not get the revenues. So now they didn't have the revenues to maintain 109. So they're talking about lowering it. Okay. Now I'm going to make this very simple. There are other nuances involved, and I'm aware of that, but I want to make it simple for you guys so that we can see just a basic structure of how this is going to benefit the Knicks. All right. Because I made some trade proposal earlier and y'all thought I was crazy, but now it's not so crazy. Because I told you guys revenues are important, and the business side for an owner overtakes the fan side. Fans like, well, why would they do that? Well, that player stinks. And I'm trying to tell you guys, it's nothing to do with that. It's about money. Okay. So 109 million was the salary cap. If it is reduced by 15 million, that's the worst case scenario. So now your salary cap goes from 109 million to 94 million. Okay. So whatever expected money you had over under the cap is going to be reduced by that $15 million. Now, we talk about as Knicks fans. So in other words, now everybody's salary cap is 94 million. It's going to be. Okay. Oh, one other side note I wanted to bring up. I told y'all also in August, some of y'all don't look at the whole video, so you may not have caught this, but I told y'all that agents are going to be contacting teams without the league's permission. I told you that, and they're doing it. As a matter of fact, there was an article yesterday where a couple of agents actually said they got agreements in place. And why would they do that? Because everybody's understanding that there's going to be a loss of revenue. So they're going to try to get with a team and get a guarantee of a contract before all of this stuff changes. That's what the players want. Okay. So if you're a player and you were in line to get paid, you were in line to get a nice payday, like a 15 million. Maybe you were making, like you were Joe Harris and you were making 9 million. And now you're in line to get 15, 16, 14 million. You don't want this to mess you up. So you're going to tell your agent, listen, stop contacting people on the DL right now and see what we can get. Okay. And that's how, if you were a player, that's how you'd be thinking. Oh, they're going to lower the revenues. I may not get my money. Let's see if we can get it now before they lower it. Okay. Who got the money? That's what's coming down to. That's what players are thinking about right now. And you got to think of yourself. You're 28, 29, 26. Okay. This is the only large payday you might get. You want to maximize that. And it don't matter what team it is. It really don't. If you have not won a chip, and especially if you have not won a chip and you have not gotten paid, the first thing in basketball, professional, is you must get paid. You have to get paid first. Championship is good, but you want to go where you're going to get paid. Just think of yourself. Okay, you're Jeremy Grant. You're on Denver. You went to the Western Conference Finals. Okay. You went to the Western Conference Finals. You got a shot. You got a nice team, and you want to stay with that team. Denver's offering you $11 million a year. Detroit is offering you 15. Where you going? There's no question. I mean, 11 million, let's say it was a 4-year, $44 million contract. And now Detroit is offering you a 4-year, $60 million contract. Okay. There's no question. You're going to sign with Detroit. It's not even about anything but getting that money. Okay. You might want an opt-out clause in your contract at some point that you can decide you want to move on once you play in that contract and everybody see you worth that money, but you're going to get paid first. So y'all got to remember that. Okay. And if Denver's owner says, man, I can't afford to pay the Jeremy 15, 16 million, I'm going to have to let him walk, or I'm going to trade him before he walks or something, because I'm not going to pay him. We're already in problems, right? So these are the decisions that owners are thinking about. Revenues are important. Okay. So today I want to look at 4 teams: Minnesota, Suns, Utah, and Philly. Now, how did I pick these 4 teams? Because the Knicks have cap space. And we want to, again, weaponize the cap space to make our team better. Okay. We want to weaponize the cap space to make our team better. That means we want to take advantage of teams that are in bad contracts, that we can take on bad contracts that can also give us draft picks. Okay. Which is why we're not talking about CP3 or Westbrook. I mean, aside from whatever they are as players, we're not even talking about that. From before, OKC not offering no draft picks yet. If I ain't hearing no draft picks, we got nothing to talk about. And of course, Houston gave away all their draft picks for the next couple of seasons, trying to obtain Westbrook. Now, do they want to give us future draft picks? Okay, maybe we could talk. They want to give us 2024, 2026. Maybe we could talk. 2023. But if you look at what they're giving away, I think they're pretty well out there already. with what they gave to Oklahoma City. So we don't want to talk about that. Now, Minnesota has the 17th pick. The Suns have the 10th pick. Utah has the 23rd pick, and Philly has the 21st pick in this year's draft. We have 2 first-round picks this year and a second. Okay? We have 3 first-round picks for 2021 and a second. All right? So we stacked with picks. We could use one more this year, though. It's, especially, we could use one more this year. And I don't want y'all to pay attention because in terms of who the player is, because in some cases it's not going to be a good player, somebody that you're going to like, but it's the money. It's the money and it's the picks. Okay. That's what we're looking for here. Now, all of these teams got some financial situations here. So let's start with our own team, the Knicks. So we have, if we renounce, which they probably will in this scenario, if we renounce all contracts that are team options, we will have $45 million in cap space. Now, yesterday there was an article saying Knicks have $60 million. I don't know about that, but unless they give away Randall, which they ain't going to do. So nobody's going to just take him off our hands because they're going to be nice about it. But in terms of Portis, Taj Gibson, Elfrid Payton, Wayne Ellington, and then Reggie Bullock even. These contracts are going to have to be renounced for us to get $45 million in cap space. If they reduce the cap space by 15, now we're left with $30 million in cap space. And that's the most in the league. If they reduce the cap by 15. That's the most in the league. Okay? So we're going to have people calling us. We're going to have people calling us. Everybody. Players that want to get paid, teams that are over, you're going to have them calling us because of that. Okay. Now, first, let's look at the Suns because it is also possible that we can get 2 more first round picks. Yeah, this year. I know some of you are saying, well, you might have enough. I'm just trying to tell you, this is the situation because of the financial landscape. Now, let's talk about the Suns. The Suns would normally have $19 million in cap space. That's what they would normally have going into this season. $19 million, 18.9. Dario Saric takes away that, but I'm not worried about Dario Saric. I know they would just renounce him in a minute to make sure they got this money. Now, what do the Suns need? So you got to think about it from their perspective too. What do they need? Well, obviously they want a point guard. And they don't want, they worked out Kyra Lewis twice. They've worked out they've interviewed Kyra Lewis twice. They've interviewed Terrell Terry twice. And they're probably going to bring him in for workouts. Why? Because obviously they're looking for a point guard. But think about this now. They were 8-0 in the bubble. They were on the cusp. Their team has started to gel. Okay. Their team really has started to gel. Mikal Bridges is turning, he's a defensive ace. They have him on, they like him. Cam Johnson, which is an older rookie, 23-year-old rookie. He came on in the bubble. Then you got Ricky Rubio still. You got Tyler Johnson. Oh, no, not Tyler Johnson. Devin Booker, not Tyler Johnson. Devin Booker, Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, DeAndre Ayton. These are guys that did pretty well for them in the bubble. And then, now our boy Oubre was hurt. So he didn't play. Which brings me to Phoenix Suns. If they lose $15 million, right? Their cap space goes from $19 million to $4. Okay? $4 million. Now they're looking for 2 things. One of 2. Either a point guard that they can plug in there and play next to Devin Booker and or a shooter, which is why they're talking to Joe Harris and Davis Bertans because they want a shooter. Okay. They're also interested in Jeremy Grant, obviously, because of the series that he had in the Western Conference Finals and what he put out in the playoffs. So they need cap space. That's what they need, right? If they reduce their cap space to $4 million, they don't have anything, right? They can't offer any guys $4 million. Not only that, they also have the first rounder that they have at 10. That's not going to cost them a lot. And that's another thing. I'm not counting too much the cost of the rookies, except for Minnesota, because they got the number 1 pick. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But for Phoenix, they need cap relief. Now, generally speaking, the NBA requires that you receive as much money or close to it within $5 million as you send out. But when they're looking for cap relief, I'm believing that the NBA is going to allow a team like the Knicks to absorb a contract to bring cap relief in this financial situation to a team that needs it, right? So the Suns have Kelly Oubre's contract. He's on the last year is $14 million. And they need cap space. Okay? So, here's what I would do if I'm the Knicks. Now again, we want their 10th pick. I'm not giving up a pick. The only way I'm giving up a pick is if I need to save money because I got to pay a couple of first rounders, right? So I might package the 27 and 38 in that scenario to save some money so I can pay another first rounder that I'm going to get at 10 if I need to do that. But other than that, I'm not giving up a pick. I don't have to. So now I send Dennis Smith Jr. to Phoenix for Kelly Oubre and the 10th pick. So we say, well, why would they do that? Because it creates $10 million in cap space. That's why. Because it creates $10 million in cap space. And it gets them a point guard. Dennis Smith Jr. Right? I mean, in New York, y'all would probably think, oh, who would want Dennis Smith Jr.? He stinks. Dennis Smith Jr. still got talent. You give him the ball, put him in the right situation next to a Devin Booker, he might flourish. He might. But that's not our problem. We can offer Dennis Smith Jr. for Kelly Oubre in the 10th pick, and they can have $10 million in cap space. That puts them up to $14 million. Okay? Now, they would now have $14 million in cap space. Now they can go out and see what they can get with that. Maybe they could get a Davis Bertans for $14 million. Maybe they could get, because the Nets are in serious trouble with their cap. So maybe they could get a Joe Harris. Maybe they could get a Bogdanovich. Maybe they could get somebody that, they got money now versus not having anything. Okay. And I'm telling you, they know, and I know, and you should know, they're not going any further than last year with a rookie point guard. They're not. Okay. Kyra Lewis or Terrell Terry are going to end up being, I think they're both going to end up being very good, but their rookie year, they're not ready to make that, to push the Suns into the playoffs and make a run. They're not ready for that. Okay. I know y'all like to hype these guys, blah, 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 but they're not ready for that. So they're going to need a veteran. And believe it or not, Dennis Smith is in his 4th year. He would be considered a veteran now. He's not no rookie. He's a young veteran. Okay. 22-year-old veteran. And that's better than any rookie you're going to get. So that's what I'm looking at for Phoenix. So we can send Dennis Smith Jr. and they send us Kelly Oubre and they get $14 million in cap space and we get the number 10 pick. Okay. To go with our 8th pick. See, now instead of talking about maybe Halliburton or Vassell, we can be talking about Halliburton and Vassell, right? Or Vassell and somebody else. But we have the 8th and the 10th now. That's the first option. Now, I don't want to hear nobody go, why would they do that? Why would they do it? I'm trying to tell y'all, they need the money. I'm trying to tell you, they need the money. Okay. Now for us, we would be giving up $10 million of our cap space. So our cap space would go down to $20 million at that point, which means we could still get a top level shooter, a pro level shooter in the Knicks, right? At the 4 spot or the 2 spot. We can still do that. Okay. Now that's one scenario. That's the Suns. Let's talk about Minnesota. The Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's talk about them. Right now, Minnesota Timberwolves, as it stands right now, only have $5 million in cap space. And the reason is because they have James Johnson at $16 million and he's going to opt in. By the way, I want to let y'all know, any player, for most part, that has an opt-in is going to opt in, especially this year. They're not losing no money. So they're going to take their money. James Johnson is not going to get $16 million a year anywhere. He might try to go get, if he was going to get a 3-year, $27 million on the mid-level somewhere, he might do that. But why would he do that when he got $16 million sitting right here? So he's going to opt into that 16. That's going to reduce Minnie to $5 million. And if the cap is reduced by $15 million, now they're over the cap by 10. They're over the cap by 10. And not only that, they got the number 1 pick in the draft. That's approximately 8 to 10 million, depending on how, like, they can pay a player 80% of the rookie scale or 120% of the rookie scale. And if it's Anthony Edwards and I'm his agent, I'm trying to get him 120%. So they'll probably be somewhere in the $10 million range. So you got to pay that number one pick. And even if you trade it, you got to trade it for something, right? So yeah, so now Minnie has a max problem. So anyway, what do they have for us? Well, the 17th pick. 17th pick in this year's draft. What do we give them? We give them Julius Randle, and they give us James Johnson, and they got to pay the 17th pick as well. So they give us James Johnson, and throw in another player, Jack Lehman, for $4 million, and that covers that. They got to start. What are they getting for that? They're getting a starting 4. Okay, they're getting a starting 4. Oh, by the way, one more thing about the cap that maybe you know or don't know. The cap itself, like going over the cap, doesn't create a problem in terms of paying any penalties or paying penalties to the league. Going over the luxury tax creates a problem. You're going to pay extra money over the luxury tax. That's the Nets problem, and that's Philly's problem that we're going to talk about. Okay, they're going to pay, but when you're over the cap, you cannot sign a free agent because you're over the cap. Okay. You can sign somebody to a mid-level exception if you have it available, or you can trade a player to bring in a player of equal value, if you can do that. But you cannot sign a free agent if you're over the cap. All right. That's the problem. So with Minnesota, they're going to have to make a trade. So some people are thinking they're going to trade the number one overall pick. I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but, they got James Johnson there. They need a starting 4. Here's Julius Randle. And we take that. And now that doesn't change our cap situation because Julius was already counted in our 30 million. So that doesn't change our cap situation. So now we would get James Johnson, Jack Lehman, and the 17th pick. They would get Julius Randle as their starting 4. Now they have a starting 4. They can draft Anthony Edwards. They still got that. And then there's still Malik Beasley to deal with, but that's another thing. That's another problem they have, but that's another thing. Malik Beasley. If you like him, we could get him. Not in this deal. We can get him as a free agent. So yeah, that's another thing. There's that. But we're just dealing with this here. So from Minnesota, we can get the 17th pick from them. We can send them Julius Randle. They have a starting 4. We can take James Johnson and Jack Lehman off their hands because they're going to want to have the money equal so they don't add any more to their problem. So that, and it doesn't change our cap at all. So that's that. Now, so we would have in that scenario, the 8th pick, the 17th pick, the 27th pick, and the 38th pick. We would have that. In the Suns scenario, we have the 8th pick, the 10th pick, the 27th pick, and the 38th pick. Each scenario, different scenarios, would get us 4 picks. Now, it's definitely possible for us to do both of those deals. If the Suns take Dennis Smith Jr., and let's say we throw in a future second. We don't, maybe they're like, we can't get fleeced that bad. Okay, fine. It's future second pick, 2023 second, all right? Dennis Smith Jr., 2023 second. Send us Kelly Oubre, the 10th pick, and we'll be on our way, right? So we can get, in that scenario, we can have both the 10th and the 17th because that's 2 different deals involving both of 2 different players. So we can get 2 picks. Now, if those deals go through, we're talking about the 8th pick, the 10th pick, the 17th pick, plus the 27th pick and the 38th pick. Now, we think that's too much for us to pay all of these rookies. We can send out the 27th pick because now we got 8, 10, and 17. We're going to get a good play. Okay. We're going to get some good players in there. All right. Because that's where the mother lode of this draft is. Okay. So that's another scenario for the Knicks. Then there's our friends in Utah. Okay, so Utah, which generally tries to be responsible, but they would have had $31 million in cap space. But then there's Mike Conley, who has an opt-in clause for $34 million. If he opts in, which I'm 100% sure he will, and take his $34 million, they're going to be over the cap. By that $4 million. And then if the NBA reduces the cap by 15, they're going to be over by 20 million. So I think they'd be pretty desperate to get rid of Mike Conley's contract. Okay. So if they did that, we would trade them Mike Conley for Julius Randle. And that would bring them even on the cap, because now Julius Randle's contract is 19. Mike Conley's is 34. That difference is 15 million. And that's basically what they'd be over. Then they're all set. See? But of course, we would require the 23rd pick. Okay. So now we would have 8, 23rd, 27, and 38. Okay, that's what we would have in that scenario. Because Mike Conley's not going to opt out. He's going to get his $34 million. He's at the end of his career. This is his last payday on this level. He's getting his money. So we would now have Mike Conley in the point guard position. We would have their 23rd pick. We would also have our 8th pick and our 27th pick and our 30th. Now, probably Mike Conley would be either behind Frank Ntilikina or start. Y'all got to understand too, Frank Ntilikina is also in his 4th year. He's not a rookie. So Tibbs is not looking at him as a rookie. He's looking at him as a veteran. He's going to play a lot. And so Mike Conley will be a good backup veteran point guard, 1-year deal. And we could actually probably, if he plays well, we could still look at trading him at the deadline. Okay. We can still look at trading him at the deadline since he's in an expiring deal. All right. He might help a playoff team in a run. So that deal would get us the 23rd pick. And again, that doesn't preclude us from the mini deal or the Suns deal. Okay. Well, no, the mini deal is off the table in that case because we're sending Julius Randle to Utah in that case. But it doesn't preclude us from still doing Dennis Smith Jr. and the Suns. It doesn't preclude us from doing that. So we still could possibly have the 8th, the 10th, the 23rd, and the 27th. We could definitely possibly still have that. And we can trade 27 and 38 and package it for something. Maybe we want another veteran player. We could do that. Okay. We can do a sign and trade if we wanted to with, say, the Kings and give them those 2 picks and then, sign and trade for Bogdanovich. We could do that because he's a restricted free agent. We can offer him, 14, 15 million. And cause they offered him 51 million already. They offered him 51 million over 4 years and he ain't signed it yet. They offered him 51 over 4 and he hasn't signed it yet. That offer's been on the table for a year and Bogdanovich has not signed it. Okay. So he's looking to see who else is out there. What else is out there? So that deal right there is probably a little over 4 million a year. So, 12 million a year for 4 years. So if we offered him 14 million a year for 4 years, right? That's 56 million. Or we could offer him 16 and go 64 million. We could do that. And he could sign and trade. He could take these 2 picks and we take Bogdanovich. We could do that. We have the flexibility to do that. But with Utah, we get the 23rd pick. And they're going to want to do business I'm telling y'all, when that salary cap drops, these teams are going to want to do business with us. Okay. So we got our choice. I'm going to look at the Suns because giving up Dennis Smith Jr. for the 10th pick and Kelly Oubre, we now have a starting wing with RJ. We wouldn't even need to talk to anybody really about another wing because we have Kelly Oubre. He's also a veteran. Tibbs would love this kid. Okay. We'd have a wing. He's a decent 3-point shooter. Set. Okay. So I'm talking to the Suns first if I'm the Knicks. Now, Philadelphia. Y'all was tripping last time about Al Horford. I'm not saying Al Horford is no stud anymore. I'm not saying that, but I'm talking about the 21st pick. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not dealing with, trying to make, a finals with Al Horford. He'd just be a stopgap for a couple of years, right? So right now you got with Al Horford, you got, you're going to have to pay him for the next 3 years. So it's 27 and a half this year, 27 next year. And then I think he gets a guarantee of like 11, something like that in 22, 23. So I can understand why some of y'all might balk at that because of that money. But, right now Philly is a little bit more desperate because they got almost 147 million in salary. Okay, 147 million. So right now, as it stands right now, if you were to just, go with the 147, right? The luxury tax is 132. That's the luxury tax. So they're already 15 million over the luxury tax. They're going to pay about 30 million for that. Okay. Extra. So, I don't know if you want to start Doc Rivers off like that, but to get rid of Al Horford, they go from 147 down to 120. Now they're not over the luxury tax at all. They're over the cap, but they're not over the luxury tax. They're not paying a whole bunch of money for that. Okay. So they want to get rid of Al Horford. They're going to want to. Everybody's talking about them trading Ben Simmons or Embiid. I don't think they're going to do that. Not with Doc just coming in here. They're not trading those two guys. So Al Horford, though, I can see him being traded. So, okay. So we're talking about Julius Randle and the 21st pick. Julius Randle and the 21st pick. That actually reduces their number by 8 million. That may not be enough for them, but it does reduce their number by 8 million. It reduces their number by 8 million. It does save them luxury tax money because now they'd be at 138 instead of 147. So that would save them. That definitely will save them luxury tax money because at 138 million, they're only 6 million over the luxury tax, and they probably have to pay 12 for that instead of 30. So they do save about 18 million in luxury tax on the trade. So I would take Al Horford, and this is not my favorite one, but I would take Al Horford, their 21st. I want their second round pick this year, and I want a future pick. Give me a future second or something. But if we're going to take on Al Horford, I want multiple picks. So that's what I'm looking at with Philly. So this is the scenario. We can do a trade with the Suns. We can send them Dennis Smith Jr. They can send us Kelly Oubre. Saves them 10 million in cap space. Okay. They would now have 14 million total to be able to do something with. We get the 10th pick for that. So they don't have to pay for that pick. And they have, a point guard. Okay. They may want a future pick. Okay. We could talk about that, but I'm not giving them anything from 2021. Nothing from 2021. Okay. Out. So then we're looking at Minnesota. We can send them Julius Randle. We can get back James Johnson and Jack Layman. They will have a starting 4. Okay. They'll have a starting 4. We don't want their number 1 pick. We want their 17th pick for that. And that way they're not going any further over the cap than they already are. I think they're not in luxury tax territory yet. Let's take a look at that. Nope, they're not in luxury tax territory. And they get rid of James Johnson, and they got a starting forward, Julius Randle, who is age 25 or 26 this year. So you're in pretty good shape. And then we got the 17th pick. Then there's Utah, who is going to be desperate to get off of that $34 million that Conley's going to have. They're going to want to get off of that. So there's no other, in this scenario, if they lower the cap by 15, there's no other team in the league that can do what we're going to do for them. So they're going to definitely give us that 23rd pick. And we're going to give them Julius Randle. And they're going to give us Mike Conley. And the deal, that's it. We're finished, and then of course there's the Philly deal, which is the worst one. I mean, we take Al Horford, and it's not just for 1 year, it's for 3 years, right? And then we're getting their 21st pick from this year, their second round pick, which I think is 32 for this year, and maybe a future second, It depends on how much you feel about the 21st pick. So Tankathon got Tyrell Terry going to them at 21. If you like Tyrell Terry, and if the Knicks likes Tyrell Terry, I'm not sure, but you can get that. Cause this is the thing. I like Devin Vassell at 8, as you all know. I also like Halliburton at 8. If one of those guys are not available, or neither of them are available at 8, we can get one of them at 8. We can still get the other one. We have opportunity for a Patrick Williams, a Precious Achua. Some of y'all like Neesmith. I'm not so high on Neesmith, but cause he don't play no defense and he don't pass. He's a specialist. Okay, fine. But I don't know if I want to, I don't know. But, you could get him. And then there's other guys. You still got your Malachi Flynn's out there. You still got your Desmond Baines out there. You still got some players that you can get. And then, of course, you can still get, some of y'all like Isaiah Joe. I think Isaiah Joe has a possibility of being a very good player. He has some work to do, but I think he'll put it in. All right. So you have all of these possibilities. Now, Not that any of these guys are going to start. Y'all need to understand that. The only possible person I could see starting out of that group is Halliburton. Other than that, Tibbs ain't starting no rookies. Okay. But we have a future to build on. We would have in the Utah deal, we would have a veteran point guard. In the Phoenix deal, we would have a young wing that's not even in his prime yet in Kelly Oubre. Okay. So there's some good possibilities here. Plus we'd be flush. We'd be now flush with picks this year and next year. Okay. If we even get the minimum, let's say we just did the Utah deal. We didn't do a deal with the Suns. We just did the Utah deal. We would have 3 first round picks this year and 3 first round picks next year. We the Boston Celtics right there. Okay. And if we did do the Suns deal, we'd have 4 first round picks this year and 3 first round picks next year. That's 7 first rounders in 2 seasons. Don't tell me you ain't going to get at least 2 studs. You're going to get at least 2 studs out of that. You're going to get at least 2 players that are going to be stars out of that. Just by the numbers. Okay. So, and that's what I'm saying. This year, if we get 35 wins, I'm happy. Next year, with 1 year under their belt with Tom Thibodeau, I'm looking for 43 wins. That 3rd year, when this year's rookies are in their 3rd year, we ready now. We ready. We talking about deep runs in the playoffs at that point. Okay. So this is where we at. We in a very good spot. This cap situation. And if they only lower anything they lower it by, it's going to help all teams, but it's going to always help the Knicks more. This is the worst case scenario. If they lowered it by $9 million, we'd have $36 million in cap space and we could still do business with all of these teams. Because now, for example, the Suns, if they lowered the cap by $9 million, the Suns would have $10 million. That's just on the cusp of being able to get like a bigger player. So now instead of 19 million, they would have 10. And then when they do a deal with us, they end up getting 20. And now they're talking about a Jeremy Grant. Seriously, they're talking about a Bertans or a Harris plus having the point guard. See, so even if it's not quite 15 million, that's the worst case scenario. But if it's 9 million, they reduce the cap by, we still in a better position than everybody else in the league right now. We still in a better position. And I ain't even mentioned to you Charlotte. I ain't even talked to you about Charlotte. Cause Charlotte got the 3rd pick. They're they're not trading that pick. So they'll take whoever's left of Ball, Wiseman, and Anthony Edwards. They'll take whoever falls to them. Cause they need star power. They're the ones that need the box office stuff. Because they're in a small market. And so they are, and then listen, right now, they have 51 million in cap space, but that's going to be cut down to 22 because you got Nicholas Batum over there. Nicholas Batum, 27 million. He at the end of his career, he's taking his 27 million. Okay. He's taking his 27 million. So there's another one. We send Julius Randle for Nicholas Batum and we take their, I think, what do they have? What Charlotte got? I think Charlotte got either a late first, what they got? Let me see what they got, man. Charlotte got the 32nd pick. That's what they got this year. So we take Nicholas Batum, this year's 32nd, which is basically a late first rounder. And then you got, and I want something else. Give me something else because I'm taking this ugly contract. So I need this 2nd rounder. I need something in the future from your Hornets. That's what I'm talking about. You know, and that way they get some cap relief because now they're going up, they're going up by 8 million on that deal. They're going up, the cap's going up. See, so they start off with 22 million. If the cap lowers, they go down to 7. And then if we do this deal with them, they go back up to 15. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So we got a lot of options, Knicks fans. We got a lot of options. I just named 5 teams that we can deal with and get picks. The best ones to me is the Suns. The most desperate team that's going to come at us, they probably ringing our phones hook now is Utah. And then Philly, and then also Minnesota. I think I'd rather deal with the Suns, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then Utah. I'm probably not going to be dealing with Philly because I could get a better deal. Okay, they're gonna call me. I'm gonna say, listen, what's his name? Elton Brand's gonna call, and I'm gonna say, listen, I'm on the phone right now with Utah. Sorry. So, Minnie, the Suns in Utah, we can get 1 or 2 more first round picks, and I think the Knicks are gonna get this. They're gonna get at least 1 more first round pick in this draft. Okay, they're gonna get that, and I know everybody got their favorite player. Fine, I really don't care because you gonna get, to me, with 4 first rounders, with Scott Perry, Walt Perrin in them, they're gonna get a player. One of these kids is gonna pop. You're gonna get a stud. I don't know if it's gonna be Precious Achiuwa or Patrick Williams or Aaron Nesmith. I don't know who it is, but they're gonna get somebody that's gonna come in here and play. All right. So, I mean, they're not gonna start, but I'm saying they're gonna eventually be a stud for us. So tell me what y'all think. Have a good day. Shalom.